Folks, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show, and it's an honor to bring back to the program an incredibly gifted drummer from Jamaica, a catalyst for musical vocabulary, increasing musical vocabulary on the bandstand. Carlton Santa Davis, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
I want to read you this. I just interviewed a great poet, and he's an entertainer from the States. A guy named Wavy Gravy, and he was down for the World Music Festival in '82, and he's telling this story about Peter Tosh. And I want to read you the story, but then I really want you to talk about who Peter Tosh was, because I don't want to. I know he was a brilliant cat, but this is what Wavy Gravy said. He said, Peter Tosh and I had a big clash at the World Music Festival in 1982. My good friend Maria Moldauer, who was a folk singer, was supposed to perform, and her teenage daughter went through the window of a car and she had to have brain surgery. Maria stuck around for the surgery and then came to the concert. I was thinking that maybe Maria could sing backup for Peter on a tune. I came to his area on the side of the stage and asked him. He said, "Now, there's a word for skedaddle or get out, like flash." He said, "Flash, man, flash. She don't know the tune, man." He was really grumpy dude, and his grumpiness did not avail him well. Obviously, he was he was a star. How did Peter Tosh deal with fame? Because none of you guys. Well, did it ever go to his head? How did he deal with fame?
Peter Tosh was not a man who have any kind of hype. Peter Tosh was a very outspoken person, but he wasn't smitten by fame and all that kind of stuff. And even that incident, I don't recall. I mean, that was 1982.
82,
think,
yeah. And again, yeah.
So. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, Wavy Gravy also is like this guy. If Peter was not in the greatest, whatever mood he was in, I mean, it could have been one of those things. I could easily see him being dismissive of it. It's just literally, I interviewed Wavy this week and he told that story, and I'm like, I just want to know who Tosh was from people that knew him, like Santa.
Yeah. No, you see, Peter Tosh was as I said before, was a very outspoken individual. And Peter Tosh, to me, was one of the nicest person I could have ever met, because, he was like a brother to me, you know what I mean? And the thing is this, a lot of people, because of Peter's own, his own persona and the way he viewed things in life, a lot of people used to come to me and say, why is he so harsh or whatever? But he had a lot of things to say. And sometimes he might say things in a way that people, and being a Jamaican, more time when Jamaican talk, we kind of we express things in a certain way, but it doesn't really mean that we are angry at somebody, just a way of expression. And coming back to what you say, he wanted somebody to come sing a song with Peter on stage and whatever. You know what I mean? That could never work, because the thing is this, we as a group, we rehearsed together, all the personnel who was in the group, we rehearsed a song, and for somebody to just come up cold turkey and say, I want to come sing a song.
Yeah.
This is a major show, and to just interject somebody into something that nobody know whether or not they're going to do. It was not jam, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I mean, it was like, it was hip. These were hippies that, beyond the hippie movement. It was 82, but
yeah.
And they were coming. I mean, it was also like, it was this crazy. Did you remember that World Music Festival? Because there were many acts that came from the United States. It was in Jamaica.
Right.
It was in Jamaica. And
it was done in. Yeah, I was there, bro. I was there, and a lot of things went on. This is the first time I'm actually hearing about this incident, because normally, I was backstage, I was there the whole time, and I don't remember if it happened. It might have happened when I went to go do something else, but I don't recall this incident, and this is the first time I've ever heard this.
You know what? I mean, I guess the other question is, did he ever did he ever allow guests to come up on stage? Maria Muldaur is a brilliant singer in this country. Again, it doesn't matter. It just was Peter's philosophy with, like, these are things that we work out, and did he ever allow guests to come up on stage?
That would only happen if it's prearranged, not just some guy walking out the street and say, "Hey, I want to come sing a song with Peter." No, it's different. Okay, if certain artists would come along, like if a Mick Jagger would show up, of course, because then they would sing "Walk and Don't Look Back" or something, or a couple other people who he had worked with before. If these are people that he would have worked with before. And then
that's exactly right. That's brilliant. Yeah, exactly. So he was.
If these are people that he worked with before, and their track record, there's a problem. Guess who's here? Oh, okay, cool. Because it's known that these people, they will come and they will do their thing, and it's kind of like a moment in time where sometimes these are always some nice things for people to do. For instance, Mick Jagger show up. Of course, he's not going to say, "No, I'm not going to sing with Mick Jagger." Of course, he's going to sing with Mick Jagger because he had a relationship. But for somebody to just show up and say, "I want to come sing a song with Peter Tosh," and no, you never worked with Peter before. Peter don't know. This wasn't arranged before, a day in advance, a week in advance, and things are worked. So what song are we going to sing? It's not. It just don't work like that.
No, absolutely.
You couldn't just walk up. You couldn't just walk up and come on stage with us. You know what I mean? So that to me is kind of strange to hear that.
Well, I think also, but going back to what you said, could you talk about sometimes people sometimes thought he was rude or he was tough, but he was just speaking. He was very opinionated. Is there an example of something that he stood for that sometimes people got the wrong impression about him? They thought he was mean or standoffish, but just because he really believed very strongly in something that maybe wasn't popular, especially within the government. I mean, that's the one thing Wavy said, is that most regular Jamaicans couldn't even afford to go to the festival. There were pontoon boats, there were just guards with AK-47s everywhere. It was very repressive. No. Okay, break it down.
I have to stop this right
Go ahead.
There was no guards with no AK-47 standing by, no water with no, You see, this is the thing, A lot of times, people spread these type of rumors and they make things sound worse than it is.
I know. No, I know. You're right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. The only thing, this was a paid venue. It was kept by the water. So, of course, whenever there's a concert or any kind of, festivities happening, of course they got to have people to secure. And I mean, the beach section was an access point for people who would want to pay. So of course they have to have security. But there was no guys walking around with no AK-47. This is not Vietnam or some war-torn area. It's Jamaica, people having fun. But of course they're gonna have some people who don't want to pay, and they're gonna try to find access to come in. And there was security, but there wasn't all this thing about all this like in a war zone. And to go back to Peter's old,
that's more important
thing in life.
Yeah.
Now, Peter Tosh was about the injustices of society, the inequality of society. And we know what all those social issues are. You know what I mean? Equal rights for people. Because, in this world, even today in this world, there's still a lot of inequality going on, where some have, a little bit of people have, and a whole lot of people don't have. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
And he was about even level playing field. And Peter was just talking about the people who couldn't talk. He felt like, okay, it was his responsibility to bring awareness to a lot of the inequality, a lot of the injustices, a lot of the discrimination and all that kind of stuff. So he was kind of like that political figure within the music that he felt that, okay, it is his responsibility to bring these awareness to the world and talk about these things. So a lot of times, Peter was a man who smoked herb. And him don't like cigarette because him talk about cigarette, damaging people's body and all that. And if you come around Peter with cigarette, if you come around him smoking a cigarette, him go, yo, you can't come here so that, and he would get a little bit angry because that's him. You know what I mean? But it wasn't anything personal against the individual. It was just the idea that you come around him smoking cigarette, come around him smoking some weed, come walk up with us place, he's cool with that. You know what I mean? And then people would take that as to, Peter was very rude to me because I was smoking a cigarette and he started cursing me. No, he wasn't cursing you. He was just cursing the idea that maybe you should have known that everybody who know Peter Tosh at the time knew that he was the bush doctor. He was an advocate for herb.
And
you know what I mean? So
bless him. I mean, that's exactly. I mean, and then he was right because I mean,
Right.
marijuana hasn't caused any sickness or problems ever.
Of course not. Of course not. So it's all these. They were, listen. Peter Tosh wasn't a racist. He wasn't anti-white. He wasn't anti-anything. He was anti-injustice. You know what I mean? If people are not treated properly, Peter Tosh was the one to speak about that because Peter Tosh suffered injustice. Peter Tosh was beaten within an inch of his life for just smoking a little herb. He was beaten by police in Jamaica within an inch of his life. He showed me the spot in his head, in the middle of it, like up in the top of his head, where he was. I mean, they hit him so hard in his head that he said at that spot, whenever he would touch that spot, his whole body would vibrate.
Mm.
That was he said it was his central nervous system or whatever. But when he would touch that area, his whole body would vibrate. So you see, when Peter Tosh was talking, he wasn't just talking about things that he heard. He's talking about personal experience. You see what I'm saying? So yes, he might have gotten a little emotional at times by explaining and by, saying certain things. But it wasn't directed at anyone specifically. It was just the whole system. It was that system that discriminates against poor people, discriminate against anyone. And poor people, you have poor white people, you have poor Indians. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? Peter was just about the total overall picture. It wasn't just a one individual. So for a lot of these people who would say, well, I had an encounter with Peter and Peter was he was very rude and he was very harsh because they didn't understand him. You know what I mean? And for all the years I've been around Peter, Peter never got angry at me. You know what I mean? And I wasn't the most perfect human being, but Peter never got angry at me with reason. And I know them. I mean, this man, I learned a lot of things from him. You know what I mean? And I never one time hear him talk any derogatory thing against white people or against anybody. It was just the overall governmental system that was running things. You know what I mean? And so, a lot of times you hear all these stories, man. Sometimes people just make these things up. You know what I mean? They just make it up.
Well, I don't doubt the veracity of Wavy trying to help out Maria, but it was, I think he felt, being told no, he felt rejected. Ultimately, it doesn't matter really. I just, how did Peter, he was murdered.
Yeah, of course. Peter was murdered. Yeah.
Was it a government? Was it a government thing? I mean, was he?
No. You see. Then again, people, this whole thing about government conspiracy, and it was, listen, Peter Tosh, he died because of greedy people.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? His people around him?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that did it, Peter used to help this guy. This guy was a prisoner. He just died, I think, after doing 30 years. 30 years to the date that Peter was killed. He died Was that last year or something like that, right?
Right.
Now, he was a guy, he was in prison. He was a prisoner. He served time in prison. Came from prison. Didn't have nothing. He didn't have anything. He came around Peter, and Peter was helping this guy. Peter, he give him a little money. He wanted a bed. Peter helped him to get that bed. He had a little house. His windows were broken and stuff. Peter would help him. But then, it became a habit. He kept coming back for everything, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And Peter was a very giving person. Peter was one of the kindest person you could ever meet, because if you needed something and he had it, he would give it to you. You know what I mean? But this guy played up on his kindness for weakness, as they would say. And then once that got cut off, he got angry, because apparently, he felt that.
Well, I mean, you cut somebody off of drugs, they get really, or whatever. If they're getting everything they want, he becomes spoiled to a degree.
Right,
Yeah.
and I mean, the thing is this, I don't want to go into it too deep, but I mean, I was there, I was there, and when the guy came in, and I recognized that it was him, and to me, at first, it was like a joke. I was like, wait a minute. Is this a joke? You know what I mean? And then the first thing he said, this is a robbery. You know what I mean? This is a robbery. And then the whole thing started. So from there, from then, and I mean, I didn't like the guy, to be honest with you. I didn't like that guy. I don't want to use expletive on the thing, but I didn't like that guy. Because I told Peter, I said, man, I see this guy all the time. I said, I said to Peter, bro, something about this guy that creep me out. Something about him I don't like. And Peter was like, everything cool, man. Everything under control, man. And I was like, okay, but I said, bro, something that got, there was something that's telling me that this guy is trouble. But being Peter the type of person, there's nothing in my imagination or in my thoughts that would think that somebody would want to come and kill Peter at a certain point, because Peter was talking for the very same people that killed him.
Right.
He was the man who was talking about making things better so that everybody can have an equal share, an equal opportunity. And guess what? Guy got greedy, and you have to understand. There was one day I was driving, while I was in Jamaica. I was driving one day, and Peter was in the States, and he was going through some stuff with the record company, and they had released some songs in some areas that he didn't approve of at the time. And then, he was going through some, court stuff and blah, 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 blah. And he was on the radio. Now, this was public thing. He was on the radio with a popular DJ in Jamaica at the time, Barry G. And this was on the national radio, and he was talking to him about what was transpiring with the court cases, and he was getting all these things, and he was suing the company. I think it was EMI at the time, and he was suing them for millions of dollars and blah blah. So at the time he was going back and forth to the U.S. because he had a residence also in New York. So he was going back and forth. So each time, a lot of time in Jamaica, it's funny. As soon as you step out of that island and you come back, people think you're coming back with a Brinks truck. They think, oh shoot, you're coming back with millions of dollars. You know what I mean? So he was talking about suing this company for a lot of money. So maybe people see him coming back figuring, oh shoot, he got a lot of money. So at the time when he got killed, that was the reason. People thinking, oh, he had a lot of money. And he got killed because of that. So all this thing about governmental conspiracy, I don't know anything. If that is so, I cannot verify that. I couldn't give you a definitive answer saying, yeah, I know about that. No. I couldn't give an answer as to any governmental or any of these other agencies' involvement in Peter's death. From my knowledge, from what I know, this creep. This guy who served time in prison, he was the perpetrator of the crime, and it was only out of, to my knowledge. I don't know if anybody else, somewhere have any other answers to that. But from my knowledge, it was purely a robbery. And if I knew otherwise, I wouldn't be afraid to say. But that was the whole thing. The whole motive was coming to get some money. There was no money. And okay, people come to rob you, and if they think you can identify them, they're gonna kill you, and that's what happened.
Well, So it's fascinating. This whole thing is very interesting to hear from you, somebody who was actually right there when it happened. Did the government ever get off Peter Tosh's back? Did they? You said they beat him almost to the point of death. Only when he became popular did they get off his back, or were they always on him?
No, it wasn't so much the government,
Well, who beat him?
It wasn't so much it was the police. It was just a set of police. Can you see, the thing is this? In Jamaica at the time, herb smoking was an illegal thing. It was, in the system of law there, it was illegal. I think it still is. I don't know, but it was an illegal substance as far as they're concerned. So if you were caught smoking weed, you go to jail. People go to prison for years just for a little smoke.
I'm telling you, in this country, people are rotting for years for that. It's not,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. So it wasn't the government. Well, of course, the government have something to do with the policies and the laws. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they're enforcing. They're paying the police. So anyway, go ahead.
But there were times when police used to come check Peter. There was some. 'Cause I knew a lot of policemen in Jamaica. And I used to smoke weed at the time, and I would get caught with weed, and I never go to jail. You know what I mean? And I never have to do nothing, because these a lot of police in Jamaica, they loved musicians. We musicians were like protected people.
Right.
It was just I think what happened, I think what kind of sparked certain things, was that peace concert. The peace concert, and Peter kind of said some things. He kind of he called out the government at the time.
What do you have any idea? Do you have any idea what year that was?
I think it was in the peace concert. The peace concert. I think that was in the 70s. I don't remember what year it was.
Okay.
But if you go online and look up the peace concert in Jamaica, you might see it. You should come across it, because everything is documented today. And I think maybe from that time there was some feathers that was ruffled. And of course, okay, there might have been some governmental people who didn't like what he was saying, and he was speaking the truth again, because the truth is an offense, to people who don't like truth. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So the thing is this: he said some things which were true, but for him to come out in public and say it like that, I'm sure people got offended, and then there were some cops who like this ganja smoker boy, talk all them things, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And so it wasn't the whole. I can tell you, it wasn't necessarily all of the people in government, because even them know that what he was saying was the truth. But sometimes it's the way how things come out, and then you have some people take it to the extreme. So that was basically some of the thing. You know what I mean? But it was mainly because of the whole idea of him coming out and speaking his mind again, and then of course he was the biggest advocate for herb smoking in Jamaica. You know what I mean? There was a lot of herb smokers, but he was the one who was willing to put his life and his freedom on the line, to speak out. So, this whole thing, that's what it is. That's to my knowledge, Yeah.
Well, we're talking to, he's been telling us a lot about the sociology and the history of Jamaica, but he's also an amazing drummer. Let's put this piece of music in, Santa, and then we'll come back and talk about it, okay?
Yeah.
None of mind your nationality. You have got the identity.
You are an African.
Cause if you come from Clarendon,
You are an African.
and if you come from Portland,
You are an
and if you come from Westmoreland,
You are an African.
I don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man.
You are an African.
Now mind your nationality, you have got the identity.
You are an African.
Cause if you come from Trinidad,
You are an
and if you come from Nassau,
You are an
say if you come from Cuba,
You are an African.
don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man.
You are an African.
Not my denomination, that is only segregation.
You are an African.
Cause if you go to the Catholic,
You are
and if you go to the Methodist,
You are
said if you go to the Church of God, I don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man.
You are an African.
Now mind you complexion, there is no rejection.
You are an African.
Cause if you flexion high, high, and if you flexion low, low, and if it's in between, I don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man. Now mind your nationality, you have got the identity.
You are an African.
Cause if you come from Brixton,
You
yeah,
are an African.
and if you come from Winston,
You are an African.
said if you come from Harsden,
You are an African.
and if you come from Easton,
You are an African.
if you come from Bronx,
You are an African.
said if you come from Brooklyn,
You are an
and if you come from Queens,
You are an African.
said if you come from Manhattan,
You are an African.
and if you come from Canada,
You are an African.
if you come from Miami,
You are an African.
if you come from Switzerland,
You are an African.
and if you come from Germany,
You are an African.
if you come from
You
Russia,
are an African.
if you come from China,
You are an African.
said if you come from Taiwan,
You are an African.
and if you come from Taiwan,
You are an African.
if you come from the North Pole, if you come from the South Pole, said if you come from I don't know where.
All right, my man. What do you got for us?
Huh?
So that was actually from the Jamaican World Music Festival 1982, the one we were just talking about.
Oh, okay. Because I was trying to figure out what, because there's been a lot of them, you know.
Well, no, I mean that was cool because I mean it was just, you know, I mean I'm curious about the opportunity that you had to just meet other. There were like Billy Cobham came down for that. Did you get to mingle with other drummers that were there from? Because I mean,
Yes.
Can you talk about who you connected with at that time from the States?
Well, at the time, Billy Cobham was one of my favorites because I had all of his, like most of his albums.
Yeah, right.
And I have a great story because he used a lot of timbales and all that kind of stuff. So he borrowed my timbale and he broke it, and I was happy.
You were happy, or you were okay?
So I was happy. I said, Billy Cobham, one of my favorites, and he needed a timbale to add to his setup, and I loaned him mine, and he broke it. So I said yes. That was a good feeling, because he's a hard drummer. He plays real hard but very technical too. You know what I mean? And shoot, I was happy. I was happy that one of my favorite actually broke one of my drums. So I said, okay, no problem.
Well, it's funny because
Yeah.
you were at the end of that at the end of that song. I think you were playing timbales, or you were playing these,
Yeah.
or at least they looked like hand drums, but you were playing them with sticks.
Yeah. Those are some bongos.
And bongos, yeah. So I mean,
Bongos.
Can you talk about your rhythm partner? His name escapes me. The bass player. You and him cooked such an infectious groove together.
Oh, you mean he's talking about Fulwood?
Fully, man. I mean, I did. I mean, the truth is that rhythm sections are responsible for creating new musical vocabulary, and I think it's very possible that Fully and Santa were involved with creating new vocabulary on the bandstand.
Of course. Okay, so me and Fully, we have a long history because his family and my family, they were friends. And when I was a small kid, if my mom, because I grew up with my mom, so if she had to go run some errands, take care of some business, I would stay by Fully's house,
Sure.
So I kind of, so his family was like my family, so I used to stay by their house if my mom got to go do something, so I had that relationship and that chemistry with the whole family. And then with me and Fully, started playing together, it was like we both knew, we know each other. We still play together today. And to me, he's one of the best bass player I've ever worked with because, we have a chemistry. Because what used to happen, we used to get up every day in Jamaica. Like, it was like an everyday practice where we'd get up and, we come to his house and we set the equipment up and we just practice. That's all we used to do, the whole band, or who could make it. It doesn't matter who, if the keyboard player's not there, we just still practice. And that's what we used to do on a daily basis. And then we used to do nightclubs. So we do nightclubs, we practice, we do nightclubs, we do studio. So, we develop a chemistry, that, he would do some crazy stuff, I would do crazy stuff. We would do things that people wouldn't think of. We would just, he would be playing a line, and I just start doing an accent to one of his notes or whatever,
Right.
and then we develop that thing where we go back and forth, like mimicking each other. So so that was the whole thing, and playing in nightclubs. Then we would take we would take that energy from the nightclub, seeing how people, vibrate and move to rhythm. Then we take that to the studio, and likewise, everything will be going back and forth because not many, back in those times, you have guys. They are good live musicians who can play on stage, right? But they would they would suck in studio, you know what I mean? and then you have guys who are studio musicians, they suck when they got on stage. So, we what you would say, we were proficient on both ends of that, So, which was kind of like unusual because just like I said, some people they could play their ass off in the studio, but they can't do nothing on the they go on stage. Cause it's two different zones. Cause when you go in a studio, it's more controlled. You're playing a little bit different. You're still going to do what you do like when you're doing live, cause you're playing live music anyway. But the mindset is there's a certain amount of a little bit more discipline in the studio, But Fully, man, I mean, he's one of the best bass players because trust me, when you talk about pocket, well, he would lock onto a rhythm and he would play till the crows come in because that's the way he was, what I mean? So, hey, I think that's one of the greats, and I mean we cross borders, man. We just do things that's unusual. He would play these weird bass lines, and then I would accent it by just playing something weird too, and it becomes something, So that's the way it was, man. Just a matter of that brotherly love and that chemistry and love for what we do, because when we started playing music, it wasn't like a money thing. It was like out of fun, loving the music, and we didn't at the time, which I wish we did then, but we didn't see it as a business. It was at the time was just having fun, what I mean? Which is cool still, but that was the thing, that was really the thing about us playing together,
What was your experience like without when you were playing with another bass player other than Fully? I mean, to me, this is like longevity. All the great rhythm sections, they've all played together for a long time. Did you have experience with any other bass players, live with a touring act, for instance?
Well, okay. So there was a bunch of bass players, right? There was a brethren called Earl Bagger Walker.
Mm-hmm.
He used to Bagger. You would call him Bagger. And back in those, when I used to work with Jimmy Cliff, he was the bass player for Jimmy Cliff. And then in the studio again, I would work for a long time with Robbie Shakespeare. Me and Robbie Shakespeare, we used to work together before he and Sly got together. What I mean? Because a lot of those Bunny Lee records, like None Shall Escape the Judgment and Move Out of Babylon. I mean, I could talk for a long time on the amount of hit rhythms that me and
Can you talk about the rhythms that I had no idea that you were with Shakespeare before Sly?
Yeah, we started before Sly. I mean, me and him started working together before Sly and Robbie. Before the Sly and Robbie thing took off. But then again, when they talk about Groove Master after Robbie Shakespeare, so you have Fully. What I say, when Fully lock onto something, what I mean? There's something about him, the way he does things. And Robbie was the same kind of person. Because, a bass player like Robbie, very, very to the point, very simple, but effective.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie would play one note, but make that note be something. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, what I mean? So, excellent. I mean, I loved working. I mean, even to this day, if me and him do something, it's like, oh shoot, it's like memory. Everything just comes back, And then, I did a few things with Family Man, but not a lot. Back in the earlier days, and then, and those are mainly like studio stuff. I think I did. I think one time Robbie came to fill in for the bass player for Jimmy Cliff one time. It was just for a short moment, and then that was it. And then, but people like Jackie Jackson, who was one of the premier bass player back in Jamaica with a lot of the studio sessions, So
You might, did you ever work with any cats from the States, not from Jamaica?
Not really.
Never.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I work with a bunch of people, but I'm trying to remember this cat's name because I did something that wasn't really reggae. It was kind of like some, and a lot of people don't know all that stuff. But I forgot the name of this guy.
No, it's. I mean, I just want to be clear. The cat you worked with was Bunny Lee with Shakespeare.
Robbie Shakespeare, man. I did a lot of Bunny Lee's recording. Was me and Robbie.
Right. Now there's another. I just wanted to. Yeah. Go ahead.
Huh? Go ahead. Sorry.
No. There's this mercurial cat that I wasn't sure if you were. Is it Don Carlos?
Oh, we did some stuff with Don Carlos, but there was a bunch of. I mean, all of those artists from back in the 70s, we crossed paths at some point in time, even if it's one song or two songs. But I've recorded for almost all of those cats from that time.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, really. I mean, where in your mind today, where is the what are you still learning about in terms of music? I mean, you're a lifelong learner, so I just would like you to talk to the audience about what you are still learning about.
I'm learning about keeping things real and simple. The thing is, as a musician, you have to be very humble. And I think that there's always that next thing. I'm still learning rhythmic patterns. I'm still learning how to keep things simple and to the point. You know what I mean? And it's like a constant progression, because if you ever get up one day and thinking that, oh yeah, okay, I'm there, then I think you have a problem.
Right.
For me, I keep it interesting every day. Like I said, if I play the same song over and over, I don't get bored, because I treat it each time like a new song, and I think in order to keep it fresh in my mind, and it's not like just doing it to say, okay, well I'm gonna consciously try to do it. Well, I would say I consciously tried to do that then. Let's say that, because the thing is this, you keep learning, and I try not to do the same thing twice. Like if I play one song, if I start a song like with a certain feel, the next time I play it, I might do it another way, and this is to keep regenerating energy in that song and regenerating energy in myself. You know what I mean? So it's a constant journey, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm still excited. I'm still enthusiastic. I'm still like real, seeking. I'm still in that mode where everything is not even so much more now today. I am more excited and more understanding today than yesterday, because the thing is, what I did in the 70s, it wasn't anything I wasn't even thinking of. Sometimes when I listen back now, I say, whoa, wait a minute. Is that what I was doing? Because you wasn't really thinking, because, you see, back in those times, session, I mean, there was so much. I was in the studio like 24/7. You know what I mean? Every day or every other day or every other week. You're just in the studio. So you didn't have time to really think about, that last song. But I try to make sure that I don't repeat myself too much. So the journey was just continuous, and it's still that way today. I'm more excited. I still have that hunger. Cause you have to have that hunger. As a musician, in order to keep current, you have to have that hunger, and you also have to adapt, because times change. You know what I mean? Times have changed. And even the variation of how the music is played today. Because we're living in a different age, technological age, where back in the day we had tape machines and whatever. Now we're going digital and everything and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? We're using click tracks and stuff like that. And even with click tracks, I try to maintain that analog vibe. So if I'm playing over a click track, you wouldn't know that I'm playing to a click track. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound, so, but you have to adapt to what is happening today because it's a different, generations change. You know what I mean? But the music don't really change. It's just a little bit of attitude. You know, but you still have to maintain the root and you still have to maintain that vision. You have to have that vision as to, okay, where is it going next? Or how best can I, what can I add to this thing to make it even more interesting so that it's not boring, so that it's not repetitive, and you know what I mean? So for me right now, music is just a constant learning. I'm still learning, man. I still have chops that I'm working on. I still figure I can do something else. I'm not there yet. I'm still, until the day I leave this earth, it's just gonna be like that. You know what I mean? And I'm passing it on. I'm just, young kids come up to me and say, Santa Davis, how do I do this? And I show them. I don't hide stuff. I just say, hey, because it's like a race. It's like a relay. You have to pass the baton. Pass that little stick to the next guy and say, okay, go do what you got to do with it. You know what I mean? So that's just me.
I want to. No, I love it. It's great. I cannot wait to come and see you play live and interview you in person. But before I let you go, I want you to address this because I don't think it's. I want you to speak on it. I just found this clip on YouTube. It says Peter Tosh betrayed by Santa Davis. Santa Davis guilty of desertion. And I was it's a 26-minute video on YouTube. Just the description says, in 1987, Santa Davis drove away, leaving his friends to die. One of them was the great Peter Tosh. Santa, who was shot by gunmen. Santa, you will be shunned by society and decent people in general. You are like You are like germs. The act of treachery will not go unnoticed or unreported. Please push back against this claim. Wow.
When I first heard about this, my son actually. He called me from Jamaica and he said, Dad, man, somebody called him and told him about this thing on YouTube about this guy. This guy, his name is Kojo Mombolo.
That's right.
and he sounds Jamaican too. So I listened to it. I listened to the thing and I was like, wait a minute. Is this guy talking about me? I was wondering if I'm hearing what I'm hearing. So this guy is talking about I drove away and leave my friends to die. Well, it's funny, when people hear these things, everybody start, gathering their own assumptions and people start running with stuff and they don't understand exactly the whole deal, what happened and anybody who would listen to this, they would think, oh, Santa Davis wasn't hurt. He was just scared. He was just a punk or whatever. Now, I would say to people, go and get yourself shot. Go and get yourself shot in the lungs. Get yourself shot in the lung. Have internal bleeding. Start fading. And be a hero and come back and tell me about it.
Right.
Now, these people, people hear this thing. They don't know what condition I was in. My brother, I wasn't shot in my shoulder of what this guy was saying. People say, oh, I got shot in my shoulder. No, I got shot in my lung. Bro, I'm still walking with a bullet in me right now. I have a bullet in me like a few centimeters from my spine. Okay? Now, I got shot, right? And I had internal bleeding. And I I knew I wasn't going to make it. Something in me was like, I'm losing my breath. I'm struggling to breathe, bro. One side of my body was numb. I couldn't feel it. I was weakening by the minutes. I was weakening. Right?
Right.
I had internal bleeding. I had a collapsed lung. There was nothing in the world I could do but to try to save myself. It wasn't like I got a scratch on my elbow or a scratch on my wrist. I had a bullet in me and I was bleeding. I had internal bleeding. I had
You were dying. You had to get medical attention or you would have been dead.
I'm telling you this. You know, the weird thing about this guy, I could understand if I wasn't in that situation and then I read this thing, I'll be like, yeah, I'll be mad at me too. I would be mad at me too if I wouldn't have been injured and then just run away like a punk.
Right.
No, that wasn't the case. I was dying, bro. When I heard the words and what this guy this guy is saying things about me, and I'm like, wow, this guy, okay, at least call me. If he was really somebody who was dealing with justice, try and find me and have a conversation with me before you put stuff like that out to the public. Because when you put stuff like that out in the public, it's out there in perpetuity. People who don't understand or who don't know the magnitude of the situation, of course, they're going to see this stuff. This stuff. Peter Tosh was an icon, and a man like Peter Tosh, oh, Santa Davis, blah, 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 blah. They're going to put all of that together and say, wait a minute, and they're going to get emotional about the whole thing. Of course. I mean, maybe if I would have heard it, I heard that on a different angle, I'd be like, really? That dude drove away without even trying to find out why did this person do that? You know, ask yourself the question, why would somebody drive away and go seek medical attention? It's not like I drove away and run to my house. I drove to the hospital because that's the way I felt. I know I was dying. I had internal bleeding, bro. And when I got to the hospital and I was trying to explain to them what happened, they said, Mr. Davis, don't worry about that. You made it here just in time. And there is no exit wound. That's what I heard. They were looking all over my body and they say, wait a minute, there's no exit wound.
Wow.
And they immediately cut a hole. I have a scar on my left side where they had to make an incision and put a big-ass tube inside of my body, and I was leaking blood. They were taking all this blood out of my system for like 4 or 5 days. You see what I'm saying? Telling me that my lung came down to the size of a golf ball. But this guy, this clown, didn't bother to go check that out. No, he came to his own conclusion and trying to damage my character because he knows that, okay, people hear this, yeah, let's set Santa Davis up and let the people look at him in a different light. Nobody went and okay, I said this again. Go get a shot in your lung. I would tell this guy that. Get shot in your lung. Get internal bleeding. Or, better yet, go to a medical professional and ask them what happens to the human body when you have internal bleeding if you don't get medical attention in a timely manner. Go and ask that question.
And just to be clear, I mean, you've made this is, I just want to be clear. If you had been shot in the shoulder, you would have done everything to save your brothers.
My brother, listen, Peter Tosh was the brother I never have. I'm a only child, bro. Peter Tosh treated me with so much respect, with so much love. I love that man as a brother because he treated me right. Why would I be in a position to help him and don't do that? Why would I do that? Peter Tosh never did nothing to me. He never owed me money. He never stopped me from getting anything. He never prevented me from opportunities. So why would I, in a situation like that, when he needed me the most, I would just run away? Why would I do that? I mean, you know, that's the thing that boggles my mind. When this guy who wasn't even there, he wasn't there. He wasn't around. He wasn't me. He wasn't feeling what I was going through. My body, I was fading. I drove myself to the hospital. Luckily, I was driving an American-style Jeep where the driver's side is on the left side. And I'm driving a stick shift. Bro, I drove myself to that hospital, okay? And the next day, you know, they were, the nurses and the doctors, they were having, I heard them having a conversation. They were like a little ways from my bed, and they were like, they're having a conversation about the whole incident, and they were like, oh, one of the patients, I heard who was the patient that drove themselves to the hospital? One of the patients drove themselves to the hospital. And I said, that would be me. They said, no, Mr. Davis, nothing. That's impossible. The condition that you were in last night, you couldn't have driven yourself here. I said, yes, that was me. And they were telling me that I couldn't have done that.
Huh.
They told me that the condition that I came there in, there was no way on this earth. And I'm not making that up, bro. I'm not making that up.
No, I believe you.
No way on this earth I could have done that, the condition that I came there in. And I was like, really? I was baffled by that because, you know, it's kind of weird because check this out. They were taking blood. They were taking, draining that blood that was in my body, you know, because it had to come out. And guess what? The whole night I was laying there. They didn't put an IV in me. I wasn't getting anything back. Check this out. I was draining blood out, you know, and I didn't have an IV in my arm. The next morning, that means I should have been dead. I should have been a dead guy. The next morning, the chief surgeon came around and doing his walk around, and he had a bunch of interns because it's the university hospital where they train people.
Sure.
So he had a bunch of interns walking around checking on the patients, and they came over to me. And the doctor came over and said, "Oh, how you doing? How you feeling today, Mr. Davis?" I said, "Well, I was in pain. Everything that whole adrenaline had gone, so I started feeling some pain now." And he said, "Oh," I said, "Well, I'm in some pain, but I'm doing okay." And all of a sudden, his eyes bugged out, and he was like, "Wait a minute, where's this man's IV? Where's his IV? How come this man?" And one of the interns ran off like a track star, and I heard this jingling, and he came back one of those things on the wheels and whatever, and he was trying to find my vein the man said, this man could have gone into shock, and I was like, wait, I thought everything was normal the way I was. So this whole thing was just a whole spiritual awakening for me, because here it is. I'm laying there. I should have had a IV in my arm, and the whole night. I'm talking about from maybe 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, to maybe 8, 9 o'clock in the next morning.
Right. Ugh,
you see what I'm saying? So people will hear.
Well, I mean, it's just it's funny. It's okay. I want to also. It's a shame that somebody puts that up there, and it's not. But I deal well anyway. It's different, but it's just always the life that we have to live. I just don't think it's for somebody who was considered the brother that you never had. Why somebody's running around shooting their mouth off and then uploading a 26-minute video to YouTube is beyond me. And you weren't even, so I have, Santa, I have to. Maybe we can do a part 3 soon. I think we should continue this conversation. It was just a very wonderful conversation.
Yeah, but this guy putting this thing up, and he never even. I mean, the guy, if he was somebody with any kind of integrity, if he was somebody with any type of kind of integrity, he would have called me and have a conversation, try to find out from me, okay, what he was doing, try to take bits and pieces of my interview. And of course, when you do an interview sometime, you never generally say things in the same order, or else that would be like a rehearsal, like you're rehearsing stuff. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I got to get this just like this so they can believe me. No. You know what I mean? So you might say things in a different way, and he's trying to nitpick and say, okay, listen to what he said here. Oh, listen to it. And this guy is calling me every name in the book. And the thing is this, why don't he try to find me and face me and say those stuff? You know what I mean? Face me. Be a man. And I realized he wasn't really a man. You know what I mean? This guy is not a real man, because a real man wouldn't do that. He's hiding behind wherever he's hiding and talking these things about me and trying to put me in a bad light with the public. But you know what? Whatever people want to think about me, the truth is the truth, and I don't have anything to hide, bro. This is what happened. I never have no control over the situation. I'm still walking with a bullet in me. I still have a messed up finger, my little finger on my left hand. Thank God I'm not a piano player. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people don't know I'm walking around with all these kind of deformities. You see what I'm saying? I'm walking with a bullet inside of me. You see what I'm saying? Right? Mm-hmm. I can't even do, if I have any problem, I can't do a CAT scan. Which one of them is the more magnetic? Is it the MRI?
Yeah, So because you have the metal in you. Yeah.
Right. I think it's the MRI.
Wow.
I can only do a CAT scan if I have any problems. I can't do an MRI because, I have the bullet in me, because, that the magnet will do stuff. You know what I mean? So people, man, I mean, for him to say that is like totally disrespectful to my brother, because I lost a brother. You know what I mean? Peter Tosh was a brother to me. I wouldn't have no reason not to help that man if I could. I would lift him up my own damn self and put him in my truck and take him. I would take everybody who I could fit in my truck. But I didn't have no control over the situation. My body wasn't in a position to lift a pin. You see what I'm saying? And this guy, he did his damage, and a lot of people would say to me, oh, I heard this thing and blah, 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 blah. And, a lot of people is going to believe. Even while I'm talking now, you still have people that, well, maybe you could have done something. Well, put yourself in my position. Get shot. Have a collapsed lung. Have internal bleeding. Trying to breathe on one lung with a projectile inside of you and come back and talk to me. And then, maybe people will have a different outlook on the situation. You know what I mean? Stop believing. You can't believe everything you hear, because I guess this guy just wanted to get his moment of fame, his 15 minutes. I think he got it, because there are a lot of people who I know believe him, because before we go, there was this one guy, because Peter Tosh's woman, she runs around, and she was the one who started that. For I don't know why she did it, but she did it. She went and talked to this guy in Jamaica on his program called Muta Baruka, and I heard that interview too, and she talking about me, saying that I drove away and all this kind of stuff, and I heard that part too, and then when I did an interview with Muta, this guy from Africa, he messaged me and said he's thanking me for bringing up my part of the whole thing, because he was looking at me different when he heard that. You see what I'm saying? So I know, I'm quite certain there are a lot of people that I would run into, or they would see me, they would still thinking that I had something to do with why Peter died. Because the guy was even trying to implicate, like, oh, I wonder, it's weird, man. I don't even want to go over that, but
no, you have to understand. Number one, I want to make sure. Did you receive? I sent you a text with our first interview. Did you receive that?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Number two, I'm gonna I also encourage you, please. I sent you a friend request as Jake D. Feinberg. So friend me on Facebook because
I think I did.
we are still not friends yet. No, I think you friended another Jake Feinberg. So I because I don't believe we are friends yet. But my point is that we can combat this stuff when I transcribe these stories, and people will understand more because I drive a lot of information on Facebook. So I want So all I'm saying to you is, thank you for thank you for everything today. You dropped so much beautiful information, and I only want the truth. I want and that's it. And I sometimes to me I am not. I would never want to go after somebody and not get their side of the story. So I will send you a copy of this tonight. And let me see here. Just make sure. Let's see about Santa.
Yeah. But, betrayal, you see that word? Betrayal is a strong word, You know that word betray. You betray somebody. The thing is this, I was at Peter's house. I mean, that doesn't, that is neither here nor there. But I was at his house. It's not like he was at my house, something happened and I ran away. You know what I mean? I was at his house. So, all of a sudden, a victim, as a victim, is now being made out to be like the villain or something, like I had something to do, or I could have done something more. So that's crazy for people to just frame these kind of ideas about an individual without finding out the facts. You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is, hey, it is what it is. And my brother is dead. You know what I mean? He's dead for no reason. You see what I'm saying? It's crazy.
All right. Well, I still have my friend request in, so it's Jake D. Feinberg. Friend me, and I will send you this interview tonight, and we'll go from there. Okay?
All right, brother. No problem.
Hey, good to talk to you, Carlton. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Much blessings and respect, my brother.
Thank you, my brother.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Cool. Yeah.
Carlton Santa Davis, a heavy interview. We got one more in stock today, courtesy of the Desert Heart Foundation, and we'll be right back on the Jake Feinberg Show.
My brother Esau killed a hunter back in 1969. Before the killing was done, his inheritance was mine. But his birthright was a want away before a weary band. Esau gave me sleeplessness in a piece of moral land. All the wild commandments, the old man shot his way. But all his favor ended when my brother failed at war. Stumbled home, found me in the dark. He's on roller skates today. Someone in LA. And sometimes at night I dream you're still that hairy man, shadow box in the apocalypse, and wandering the land. Shadow box in the apocalypse, Esau holds a blessing, brother Esau holds a curse. I would say that the blame was mine, but I suspect it's something worse. The more my brother looks like me, the less I understand. The silent war, the bloody both our hands. Sometimes at night, I think I understand. We're fighting a war, neither of us can win now. None of us can win. Shadow marks in the apocalypse within now, within. Shadow marks in the apocalypse again now. Hey. Shadow marks in the apocalypse, the wandering land. Shadow marks in the apocalypse, wandering, wandering. Shadow marks.